On the edge of Calgary, in Western Canada, the Chitwood family farms beef cattle, barley, wheat, forage crops and canola.
My family has been farming in the Airdrie area, so we're just north of Calgary, since 1914. So we've farmed more or less the same bit of land since 1914. I'm fourth generation. I farm with my younger brother and my dad.
Ian Chitwood is also Vice Chair of Alberta Canola, the levy-funded association which advocates on behalf of the state's growers. It's been a dry season and Ian's fields are not as good as he'd like, but he says canola is an extremely valuable crop in Canada and Alberta is canola heartland.
Yeah, in Alberta we grow about 6 million acres. Overall we're at about 23 million acres in production in any one year. It's been a big economic driver for agriculture. For a lot of farms, it is one of the most profitable crops in a lot of years. It's the only profitable crop the farmers grow.
During July, Canada's southwest, the states that border the USA, are awash with fields of gold. Canada is the biggest canola producer in the world, growing almost 10 times as much as Australia. The industry employs 43,000 Canadians and contributes around $30 billion a year to the country's economy.
What many people don't know is that canola is as Canadian as maple syrup. It's right there in the name. Canada, can, oil, ola. It was evolved from rapeseed more than 50 years ago, and I've tracked down the man responsible. He's 96 years old. Sometimes you're referred to as the father of canola. Do you take that on board, that
well, I'm
title?
one of the fathers. I don't like the father because we were a team.
Well into his 10th decade, plant breeder Dr Keith Downey now lives with his daughter in a quiet street in the small Albertan town of Okotoks. His neighbours probably have no clue the humble man next door is responsible for developing an $80 billion a year international industry, the second biggest oilseed crop in the world after soybeans.
It's a story that I think if it had been done in the States, they'd be bragging about it forever. But I'm glad we were able to do it, and I think it's turned out to be an important contribution to agriculture.
To understand how it developed, you need to go back to World War II, when steam engines in trains and ships needed lubricating oil.
And it turned out that rapeseed oil, with the high level of long-chain fatty acids, sticks to metal when washed with steam or water better than any other lubricant. And so it was considered an essential product for the war effort.
Canada grew much of that wartime rapeseed. While the oil was considered edible, trials on rats began revealing it wasn't particularly healthy because of its high level of erucic acid. That's where Dr Downey and another plant breeder, Professor Balder Stephenson, stepped in to develop a low-acid rapeseed.
Well, we both came up with low erucic material, less than 2%, and began breeding that.
There was something else the researchers had to do to make this new variety marketable. After the seeds are harvested and the oil crushed, the leftover husks provided valuable protein-rich feed for livestock, such as dairy cattle and pigs. Trouble is, the old rapeseed contained high levels of glucosinolates, which are harmful to ruminants. So the researchers used classical breeding techniques to lower the glucosinolates and make the crop safe for humans and animals.
At what point did you decide that it needed a new name, and why? And how did you come up with canola?
Okay, well, I didn't decide. That was a decision made by the industry. They said, well, we don't like phoning up our customer and say, I've got some low russic, low glucosinolated rapeseed for you. We need something to set it apart that I can sell as an entity. We'll put CAN for, and then Ola sounds like O, so we'll call it canola. So that's how that name came about, and it was a good decision, I think. Yeah.
Good decision for Canada, maybe, but other rapeseed producing countries weren't convinced.
The Europeans don't like it because they said, well, we could have a girola or we could have a franola, you know. So they still officially call it rapeseed over there, but they produce the canola quality.
Canada is not unlike Australia when it comes to agriculture. Climate and topography means only 7% of land is suitable for growing crops. But the nation is vast, so that's still a lot of cropping territory. And there's plenty of good cattle ranching country too. Like Australia, Canada produces far more food than it can consume, so is a net exporter of agricultural products.
Quick, quick, quick!
In July, a group of agricultural journalists from across the globe toured the states of British Columbia and Alberta to report on this agricultural powerhouse of a country.
If you look over in this field here, this is planted with beets for our overwintering.
Wanting to learn more about the most Canadian of crops, I joined the canola tour.
Welcome to Olds, Alberta, Western Canada, home of canola. More Canadian than the maple leaf flag.
Canola is a winter crop in Australia. In Canada, it's grown over the summer months.
Just multiply that color of yellow by 5. It's beautiful.
It's sown in May, around the same time as ours, but is harvested much earlier, before the frigid winter sets in.
So here in Canada, we grow on frost-free days, and in Western Canada, that's extremely important. And so I would say usually you want to target 90 days as your growing season from the last frost of the spring to the first frost of the fall.
Amanda Hazlitt farms canola in rotation with wheat and barley. From a family of farmers, she's seen canola cultivars improve and adapt.
It's kind of neat to think that the crop was developed here in the 1970s and we continue to farm it and adapt it to our ever-changing growing conditions, environmental changes. So it's neat to see it evolve through the years, definitely.
2 for you. Proceed to your right.
Disease is always a concern though. Something called clubroot can destroy a canola crop. So to stop disease from spreading from one field to the next, visitors must wear disposable booties.
So our major issues traditionally have been blackleg and sclerotinia, but in 2003 we saw the appearance of clubroot, and that became a significant issue. We've probably got over 4,000 to 5,000 fields in Alberta that now have clubroot, but again our saving grace has been the development of resistant varieties.
Dr Kelly Turkington is a plant pathologist at Lacombe Research Centre. He says there's a fair bit of scientific collaboration between our two countries.
You know, I've been down to Australia on 3 occasions in a number of states. Some people told me that I've visited more of Australia than an Australian has.
If you seed the 15th of May here, you shouldn't have yellow flowers before Calgary Stampede, which is in another week.
Canola has evolved over the decades, and there are now more than 100 cultivars registered for planting in Canada. with attributes ranging from high oil content to efficient disease resistance and reduced pod shattering. Grower Ian Chitwood would like to see more heat and drought tolerance built in too.
One of the biggest issues that we have as producers is dealing with a warmer climate as a result of climate change. And so what we're seeing is we're seeing more heat earlier on in the canola growing season. So in Western Canada, what we're seeing is heat blast. This is something we didn't see 15, 20 years ago.
Usually this time of the year we're harvesting, the sun is shining, the dust is flying. Now this year we're fighting with water and mud. And
I actually visited Canada almost 20 years ago to report for Landline on what was a fairly new thing then: canola genetically modified to tolerate herbicides. Around 75% of this year's crop is GM. All of that is tolerant to herbicides, either glyphosate or glufosinate ammonium. Fast forward to 2023 and around 95% of the Canadian crop is now genetically modified. It's brought advantages such as reduced tillage, lower chemical use and higher profit margins, but just like Australia, there's an increasing number of weeds now resistant to common herbicides, arguably reducing the value of that particular GM trait.
Herbicide-resistant kochia is becoming a significant issue in Western Canadian agriculture. Herbicide resistance in general is becoming an issue in Western Canadian agriculture.
Researcher Brianne Titterman has actually turned to Australian-invented harvest weed seed destroyers in a bid to find solutions for weed control.
So we've done preliminary work running some of our weed species through the mills to look at how well those mills work in terms of weed seed kill. We've done field studies with our original toe-behind-Harrington seed destructor.
Across Alberta, Ontario and Saskatchewan, the harvesters have been at full tilt these last few weeks. The yellow flowers are long gone, and farmers are rushing to get the tiny dark seeds into silos before the fields are blanketed in snow. Every Canadian canola season is a race against time and the elements. But none of this enterprise would have been possible without the diligent work of a couple of determined and passionate agricultural scientists.
Somebody very early in my career asked me what my objectives were. And without even thinking, I said I'd like to make a lasting contribution to Canadian agriculture. And so it's not very often that an individual can say that he's achieved his objective in spades.